Firstly, we'd like to talk about awareness. Do blockbusters actually create awareness of specific issues? Do they lead to over-exaggeration? We then look at the funding problems of having blockbusters put these issues on a large scale. Who would fund it? We look at how they become mainstream. They try to cater to too many people, and often the message can become corrupt. Finally, we will argue and we will look into other effective methods that the money could be put into. I'll start by talking about awareness. Do blockbusters raise awareness? We say no. When you watched Avatar, did you think about biodiversity? Did you think about networking? No. We needed some charismatic expert to come and explain to us what these messages were. When you instantly watched them, you went there to be entertained. You didn't go to, though you did learn, it didn't make you act on these things. Even if you do understand the message, did this make you act on it? When watching Apocalypse Now, Saving Private Ryan, Inglourious Basterds even, did you go out and act? Are there still wars? The answer to this is yes, there are still wars. Just because something is put on a global scale does not prevent these messages from actually going through. Do you want to talk about over-exaggeration?
I'm going to talk about the over-exaggeration in blockbuster films. The other team said that climate change is having a detrimental effect on the earth, and that's true. But blockbuster films aren't the way to get the message across. The films are over-exaggerated for one. If you go and watch 2012, there's a lot of action. It's a high-action film to grab the audience's attention, but it's not all fact. It's more action than anything else, just to get you involved in what's going on. It's false information, so why should it be a reliable source for us to base the awareness that we want to be raised? Why should we base it on these films? The audience is going to be coming out if children go in to see these films, they might come out of, say, maybe Apocalypse. They might think it's the end of the world tomorrow. They'll just get the wrong impression from it all, and it's not what you want from these films.
I'm going to talk about cost. For the movie Avatar, it cost $450 million in production and marketing. Could this not be spent more effectively? Could we not put this into, say, biofuels? Could we not put this into hydroelectricity? Just because you put this amount of money into films doesn't necessarily make a difference. Doesn't necessarily mean people will get the message. And also the problem of funding related to cost. Who funds it? Okay, yes, maybe Avatar was seen to be able to entertain people while getting across a relevant message. Not all movies can do this. Not all movies can get across this message and be willing to change things. Could you imagine watching a movie about the polar ice caps melting? A whole movie, a whole 3.5 hours of melting ice caps? You'd say it's boring. How could you get the funding for this? What company like Miramax would fund such a production where audience wouldn't go because it was deemed boring? We suggest it should be put into other methods, and I'm going to discuss this later. Another point, mainstream. Often movies are too mainstream, like Avatar. They're trying to appeal to too many people to be able to get across the message. With things like Avatar, you're appealing to smaller children. You've got blue characters bouncing about the screen. You're appealing to a wide range of people. With movies, and it was actually mentioned about how an inconvenient truth. And we do argue that we need more of these sort of documentaries, but these are not blockbusters, these are not Hollywood blockbusters, ladies and gentlemen. Inconvenient truth, though used as an example, is not, yes, probably did make a difference, but it did not have the funding that Avatar had. And the reason for this is because more people went to Avatar, because it was more about entertainment than message. It was more about mainstream than message. So, where else could this funding be spent? We argue in such documentaries as Inconvenient Truth. In biofuels, wind farms, hydroelectricity, things that can make a difference. Yes, there is a problem in Africa. And it's often famine, starvation, problems of government, not enough funding. So why should we put more funding into movies that raise awareness when it doesn't get reinvested back into these communities? Can I ask you, did the profits made from Avatar go to the poor communities in Africa? No, it went to the big get companies to make more money, to make more profit, to go back into the capitalist society. So we argue that maybe things that actually make a difference, to actually change things, to help things, to take an action, should be used. We're not saying that climate, and as suggested, we're not saying that climate change doesn't exist. All we are saying that perhaps when you watch Shrek, I don't have a sudden compassion for donkeys. So, okay, what have I told you today? I've spoken about how, just because it's in a Hollywood blockbuster movie, this doesn't raise awareness. We've talked about how, in many cases, such as 2012 and other movies, it often over-exaggerates a point, scares people, doesn't actually get people to act on issues that need acting on. Funding would be a huge problem, and how it's more mainstream than message. We argue ultimately that no, the principle is great of the idea, it's not pragmatic. You need to invest the money in incentives that can actually make a difference. Methods that actually change things. So, thank you for listening.